Good morning.
Hey, Kim.
How's it going?
Going good.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Kim. How's it going?
Hey, Brian.
Good.
Sorry.
Hey, Paul, good to see you.
Hey, I thought I'd try a different route this time.
I don't think I've seen your face before.
Well,
I spoke with Neil about an hour ago, and he said he was going to join us here today. So I just sent Neil a text.
Yeah, I think we're going to need at least one to make a quorum anyway.
Yeah. There he is. Hey, Neil.
Brian, how's it going?
Going good.
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a couple of minutes late. I was having some technical difficulties. Probably user error, but you know, whatever. Let's see. Paul, Kim, Susan's on. Brett, Brian, Carissa. Paul's on there twice. He's just so excited to join us. He has to join twice.
You know it.
Katie, do I remember correctly? Wasn't Jeremy going to join us on this one?
No, he won't be able to make today.
Yeah, you have to put it all there.
Okay.
All right, well, let's kick this meeting off. Thank you everyone for joining. If you are joining from a telephone, there's instructions in the minutes as far as raise your hand and or unmute yourself so that you can join in the conversation. Sorry, again. Let's see, does that work? Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Guess my headphones were dying. And then Katie, sorry, I'm working off my laptop and I don't have my normal dual monitor, so it's hard for me to flip back and forth between the agenda. So if I miss something, feel free to yell at me. Katie, can you see, do we have anyone
They'll kind of take care of that.
from the community?
Nope, no one from the public.
Okay, so we can skip past public comments. And sorry, like I said, I don't have the agenda directly in front of me. What's the next thing? What's next on our agenda?
Well, that should be approval of the last April's minutes.
Oh yes, of course. I found one minor thing earlier and it was just a misspelling and I sent it to Carissa. Did everyone else have a chance to review and or would like to approve?
I'll make the motion.
I second it.
Thanks, everyone. We can approve the agenda minutes from the last meeting, which was that was April, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then last month, unfortunately, we had a number of people who weren't able to make it, so we don't have any minutes from that meeting. Okay, sorry. My technical difficulties or / user error just continue today for whatever reason. So I think Brett, we're gonna hand it over to you with a financial update.
Okay. We had 3 niche wall sales last month for a total of $2,271. We did not receive any donations. We had 5 grave sales, 1 second internment, and 2 casket internments. 3 cremation internments. We have 1 paid overtime. They paid ahead of time. That funeral's not until September, but they paid for it now. We had sales of 5 liners for polyvault. We had 0 disinterments. We had 7 monument cleanings. Sold 3 monument permits and foundation settings. The 1 foundation cost to the city was $78. 2 foundation split to the city was $190. Now we had 9 flower beds that were purchased after the deadline, 12 flower boxes, and we have the rent for upstairs for a total of $12,259. That's obviously split between us in the city. And to date, we are at 58 internments, 21 cremations, 16 niche walls, and 21 caskets. Do you have any questions on that?
Just a question regarding the foundation setting split. Foundation costs to the city are 78 and the foundation to the cemetery is 190. How come that doesn't do the 50-50 split?
I think it's supposed to. I think it's just not over in the revenue split line.
Okay.
If we could pull up the expenditure budget. We do have about $8,000 of outstanding bills that are not included in this, which would be under our supplies or purchase services. So those numbers are a little out of date. But
But, and one thing too on this, Neil and I talked about this also. Just a couple things that bear mentioning is that we are expecting the vacancy savings in personnel, and we are going to buy the chipper and then also get a new irrigation well pump to take advantage of that surplus funding on our personnel budget. And I think it's going to council. Is that next week, Katie?
Yep, so it'll be in Parks and Conservation on Wednesday. I'm not sure what time yet.
Okay. All right. So both of those are needed items, and I don't know that we'll see that sort of vacancy savings again, but I'm happy that we're able to get those purchased and hopefully before the end of this fiscal year. And then if you look at some of these other line items, it shows that we have some surplus funding based on where we are in the budget year and the remaining percents. But as Brett mentioned, a lot of the invoices, or there are some invoices still outstanding. But if you look at them a little bit even closer, like say, for example, the gasoline budget, we're at 14,000 and we have 9,000 left. That's kind of something that is somewhat out of our control based on the seasonal fluctuations of fuel. Whereas in the wintertime, it was fairly low and was probably budgeted maybe even several years ago based on fuel prices. So those can be volatile. And then as spring hits, you'll expect those fuel prices to go up because we're doing more mowing and weed whacking using more fuel. Then the other stuff, say like in purchase services, water charges, they stay pretty constant, but we're a little bit low. But right now is irrigation season. So we should be seeing bumps for electricity to run the irrigation. And then also our water charges may go up. Garbage, that's, I guess depends how much garbage we have as to how much we spend on that. The travel budget, pretty much citywide, nobody has spent their travel budgets due during COVID, which makes sense. So, obviously, as we move into the warmer spring months, we're going to be spending more money. And so what we need to really look out for how we balance out at the end of FY21, we probably won't know for sure until probably into July or August. And oftentimes vendors like to sit on their invoices. I mean, I have some vendors that don't even send me invoices for 60 days. So let's stay tuned on this. And another thing to keep in mind too is that for a better part of FY21, the cemetery was short-staffed on crew. Well, the amount of personnel you have also directly dictates how much operating budget you need to spend. So it would certainly be a direct comparison that if we've had less people, we're going to spend less money on budget. So let's stay tuned on this, and we'll look a little bit closer here. So actually, the fiscal year isn't really over until August by the time we get all the invoices in. So, Neil, did that answer some of your questions?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's not like we were in a pandemic for the past year, which probably messed with a lot of things as well or anything like that. So,
yeah. I mean, I would much rather be in this situation than the other where we're more in the red. And I think we're going to get closer to our 100% as we continue on in the next couple months. And this is the season we spend money. So
Thank
So, Brian, on that chipper, so what are you guys gonna do with the chips?
with
We typically take them to compost.
Oh, I didn't know if you could sell them or what.
Well, they're a little bigger than like what your normal mulch
Oh,
would get. They do make smaller ones that you can rip them down even to smaller and more manageable. But I thought about saving some of them, and I would like to use them around the trees that we planted a couple years ago, and the trees that we're going to plant this year out in the cemetery areas, to just use those as mulch, just kind of keep everything moist.
Oh, okay.
They're not highly decorative, I guess, so to speak, as the mulch you would buy in stores. So.
Well, we can certainly be open to ideas too, Kim, as we move forward and start using it. So.
Well, I thought it was the smaller chips where people use them for, around the bushes or flowers or whatever, if it was something that could be a source of income, but yeah.
That's something we could look into if we need a smaller, something that will chip them down into more manageable sizes for that application.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's exciting that you're able to get some of these pieces of equipment that may not have been practical otherwise. So this is fantastic. Let's see. I think we are moving into new business unless anyone had anything else on the finances. And it looks like Pat has joined us and Jeremy as well. So welcome. So I think Carissa, we're handing it off to you.
There we go. So as far as stories in Stonesville, I've been working with the volunteer coordinator to kind of see where her volunteers are at. She has the contact list and she's sending out a poll to see how comfortable people feel going into this with COVID and everything. If she gets enough of her volunteers that are interested in doing it, we're thinking about maybe September 19th, so Sunday. And then if she doesn't get enough volunteers, we're considering maybe reaching out to the Children's Theater. I know they have some adult actors who do stuff around the community, as well as possibly the university's drama club. So doing different avenues, as long as we are good to go with COVID and everything and sort of stones, then we'll actively jump into pursuing and getting everything going. So once we get the okay from you guys, we're basically full steam ahead.
What does the board think? I mean, what if we don't get the actors or we don't get as many? Could we still try and move forward with it? Minus the actors, or any input on that?
The last time that we did it, we were missing 2, maybe 3 people that normally told stories, and they were trying to find replacements and couldn't, and they were ones that were popular. And
Yeah.
people were disappointed. So I'd hate to see us do it with even half of what we normally do, because then people will stop coming to it.
Okay.
Paul or Pat, do you have any thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, I would agree with that idea, that assessment that Kim made, rather put it off for whatever excuse rather than do kind of a scaled down version of it. But I think the idea of getting actors either from MCT or from the University of Montana to fill in, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I know there's probably lots of interest in having the event happen again. It'd be great if we were able to do so. And I think it's cool idea to look at those other places to pull actors in, and try and pull it off. That would be great.
Carissa, how many, I'm sorry, how many positions do we have available for roles there?
We can accommodate as many people who want to do the role as possible. I mean, I think in the past they've tried to do between like 5 and 10, maybe a little bit more. Ideally, if we can have more people lined up, and then if something happens and we have people fall through, then we have backups. So ideally, I'd like to get at least 10 to 15 actors lined up to try and do anything. So if we do have any last minute cancellations, it doesn't throw the event into chaos. We have had quite a bit of public interest in it too. We've had a lot of people walk in and ask, you know, when are we doing that one event that's in the springtime or whatever with the stories? So we've had a lot of people who've been asking about it.
One other quick question on this. If we're struggling to get volunteers, what if we paid some actors to research certain characters? And, you know, what if we say, hey, we'll give you $200 to come out, or $100, whatever they get to come out here for 8 hours, and here's your character. You guys ever done that?
Wouldn't you have to pay every single person to do it?
Yeah. And then what if we charge admission, and then it's like a real show or something? No, but seriously though, at very least, I mean, what if we gave the actors some sort of incentive?
Like free bags of mulch?
Free wood chips.
I mean, I don't know that we'd be opposed to that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyone have any thoughts on that? I mean, the question is, can we afford it?
I do know that in the past they offered, like they had a program where they charged people a few dollars for the books, and that was not very popular. People
Right.
weren't happy about that.
Yeah.
I think that if we started charging admission fees, people wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, we take the donations at the gate or, you know, up front there, and even then, not everybody does even $1.
Just one of the most popular questions we get asked is, does it cost anything to do this? And we'll tell them no, but there is a donation box up here, and they tend to walk the other way right out into the cemetery.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get some high profile actors. Krista, maybe can you call Hollywood, see if anyone's available down there?
I don't think they'll even put me on hold.
It's a good thought though, because I know one year we were just a number of years ago talking about the challenge of organizing and putting this together, and we were looking at putting an end date on it, and I'm pretty sure the city was opposed to that, just because of the engagement and the interest that it created. And I mean, yeah, certainly if we're having trouble getting actors and aren't able to put it on for that reason, that's kind of outside our control. And if it means paying people, it might need to be communicated that way to those that are interested in attending, is that, well, if we're going to get actors in here, people to help support this, then there is a cost to it. And you know, that might spur up some donative interest by folks. I think donations makes more sense than charging to just.
I agree, Pat. I kind of said the charging admission tongue in cheek, but I think possibly looking at paying the actors, I don't know, maybe we'd get more interest and might not have as hard a time. But COVID concerns may also trump that either way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just a suggestion.
I would say let's see what kind of the number of participants that we can Krista can help figure out here, and then if we see that there's going to be a need, then we can start looking down other avenues of to fix that.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. Let's see, moving along to GIS updates.
So we had Sam from the county out here. He looked through some of our maps and took some of them back. So he's working on that side of things. And then Lee, our internal city GIS person, and I have been working on ways to try and structure the database and merge all of our current records. So right now, her and I have been going back and forth, and we're kind of in the just planning stages of trying to even figure out how to merge all of this data and make it a comprehensive list without duplication, and also getting identifiers put on all of the files. So it's moving along. It's just been kind of the data phase at this point.
It's a lot of work, but I think it's going to be pretty amazing to have. It's going to be an amazing accomplishment once it's done. Yeah, thank you for your participation in that.
Yeah, we may not be able to give you an exact time frame of completion, but I know Chris has really been working with it, and we're not just letting it sit idle. It won't be forgotten about. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
I don't know if it's been mentioned before or not, but I'd like to thank Kim for pointing us in the right direction there with the county GIS, because that's been a big plus. And it's going to really be a big addition to the cemetery. Thank you.
Hopefully it works for you guys, because I think it's going to be an excellent program that they're putting together.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, how neat. Thank you. Ordinance updates.
Yeah, so we had council approve the ordinance changes to change the cemetery director to cemetery superintendent in all the ordinances. All the changes Susan made, those were all approved as well. So we should be good to go for a while.
Let's see. I can't remember. Did the change to allow us to put in the pet ossuary get approved as well?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I couldn't remember for some reason. I thought maybe that was a separate one, but Susan, thank you for all of your work on those. We greatly appreciate it. And Katie, thanks for taking those two.
Sorry, it took me too long to unmute. You're welcome.
No, you're fine. Thank you. And Katie, thanks for helping shepherd those through the process.
Yeah, no problem.
I have a quick question on that, Katie. Do they have to wait 30 days before those ordinances take effect?
We are already past 30 days.
Okay.
So, does anyone have any other questions or comments about the ordinances? Okay. We'll move on to an update on our superintendent position.
That's probably mine. Brett was officially named the new cemetery superintendent. Effective May 31 is when I signed the status change. So welcome, Brett. Brett will be here now, not just interim, but permanently as we move forward.
All right. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Brett.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Congratulations, Brett.
I'm glad you hear, Katie, that you already said the ordinance time was passed.
So
We're good.
Sorry, my computer froze there for a second. Did I miss something?
No.
Okay. Jeremy, it's good to see your face again. How have you been?
Good, thanks, Neil. Good to see all of you again. Apologize for not being at the last couple of meetings.
No problem. No problem. We know you're a busy guy. Is there anything you wanted to bring up since or discuss while you're here?
Well, I'm sorry I had to join late.
You're fine.
What did you cover with the budget update for FY22? Because I did want to check in on that.
Yeah, so apparently you approved tripling our budget for.
I don't actually get to approve anything, so I just.
No, I mean, we had talked about there's some expenses that we wanted to look at, and the budget process is in progress.
Okay, so I think the update is just we put in the request for the architectural services into our FY22 budget request, and I know that came out of some work that you did with staff around what do we want to include in the budget. I think that one's going to be a heavy lift to get approved without a little bit more context and timing defined around what we're doing with the strategic plan, the implementation. So I thought it would be a good exercise with the board just to go through the strategic plan recommendations and do some prioritization and see where, what do we really think is the top priority, and what, where does looking at a new building and engaging an architect really fit in all of that. So Carissa did some great work for me to just gather this up quickly and have a list. And I don't think we need to make a decision on this today since it wasn't on the agenda. And but I think it's a good introduction, maybe something that you guys want to think about, and we can talk about at the next meeting in more detail. Is this the page that has the priorities on it too? Oh, we're not seeing the whole screen.
Krista, do you have that?
Yeah, let me just pull that up real quick.
Yeah, maybe if you could bring up the Excel file instead, it'll show better on the screen.
Let me just get out of all this real quick.
So what we did is we went through the plan and just picked out all the recommendations that were in there and put them on a list, and then added a column for priority, high, medium, low. And I think it would be a good exercise for us to go through and identify which of those things do we think are higher priority, and where do we have some things that might be low-hanging fruit that we want to tackle sooner rather than later.
You guys can see that?
That's better.
Yeah.
And so there were a number of recommendations around fencing and screening that I thought were relatively easy to tackle. Some are going to get into more cost, and then I think that sort of gets into the question of how are we going to fund those things, and is the sale of surplus property going to be the mechanism for that? And as we get into looking at the office building and whether that needs to be a new building, we really have to get a clear picture of how we're going to fund that. So I don't know that it's a bad idea to engage an architect and start to look at the programming around that. But I think for council to approve this, or even to get this past the mayor, we're probably going to have a little bit more explanation of where we're headed.
So Jeremy, are you suggesting that you need decisions on this prior to your next budget round?
I think we would want decisions on this prior to presenting our budget, which is going to happen most likely in July.
Okay.
I don't have a date on that yet, but when we go in and present our budget requests, I think it's important for us to be able to say that fits in the broader scheme of things. And if we do decide we want to make some changes to that budget request, I don't think it's too late to do that.
Cool.
So just as a recommendation, maybe the board develops a subcommittee to look at this so we can move this forward a little bit faster. And it's, certainly staff's welcome to attend, but maybe there's a couple of people from the board that could form a subcommittee to represent the board to go through this list and develop something that we can have a little deeper conversation about, and then bring it to the board for the next meeting. That's just a suggestion.
That would be extremely helpful, yeah.
Okay.
I wonder too, Jeremy, your suggestion about an architect, it doesn't make sense to, and I like the idea of a committee, but just wondering if we have that facilitated by an architect looking at the various priorities and options for funding it. I think that's a good suggestion as well, that you had. I think that it's a good way to introduce some of that level of creativity and different ways of thinking when looking at the various projects that are listed.
Yeah, I think that just specifically around the building, the office building, I felt like it would be a good idea to have somebody go through that building and really take a hard look at whether it is possible to renovate that building, or whether it's a tear down and start over. I think that's a due diligence step we need to do. And then it's helpful to have an architect, Paul can speak to this, it's helpful to have an architect go through the program for space that we would need in a building. Yeah. And define that at a very conceptual level. And that's way before you start actually doing construction drawings, but that could be really helpful in terms of identifying our real cost and what the needs are.
Yeah, I would agree with that. In fact, maybe just one other individual would be a landscape architect.
Yeah.
Professional.
I think a lot of this falls into the landscape architect bucket around site improvements. And so I think that's really the question for the board is what do you want to tackle first? We probably can't do it all at once. And certainly the land disposition thing is a pretty big step and is not something that I've had capacity to really even think about. So we haven't moved forward on that at all.
Jeremy, so I think that was the part of the conversation that Brian and I had was, as far as the building itself, starting to look at if it is possible to remodel it or if it's a tear down, if it's not an architect who comes in and looks at that, who would do that?
Yeah, that's typically an architect that's going to take a look at it.
Okay, that's what I had in my mind, anyways.
And that might be helpful information to prioritize projects. Like if we knew we were going to keep the building and renovate it at a lower cost than, for instance, building a new building, then you can start contemplating the priority of projects maybe and funding sources. And it's hard to visualize that without sort of having something to visualize it with, and a lot of times some architecture drawings or even numbers helps to put that into play rather than looking at kind of a list and picking what we'd want to do first. It's maybe understanding what's at play for the various changes and what does the staff see as the bigger need. And the building's a really good example, just size wise, and how do we accommodate what we want to, our staffing just at a minimum level out there. And it'd be good to have some data for that working group to look at, I guess, some information like that.
Yeah, and that's what I need to really flesh out the budget request is what specifically we would be getting out of those architectural services. And so putting a little better definition around what we put into the budget. Maybe it's both that building programming and some landscape architecture to get to more of a conceptual level of design in terms of what we want to do at the site as well. And that can go hand in hand with prioritizing this list.
I would agree with that. Just again, speaking from the architectural side, that would be the master plan suggests, or I'm sorry, the strategic plan suggests that the building does not remain, in those buildings do not remain in that location. So that's a pretty major financial commitment to get behind with the amount of information we have available to us right now. I think there needs to be some more analysis there.
Yep. Yeah, I felt like the strategic plan identified a need, but it did not really identify a specific solution for the building. I think it needs more work before we can put a real proposal together.
But I think there's a whole lot of things on that list that we could look at and fairly easily say, yes, we'd like to move forward with the, the pet ossuary, for example.
Chris and Brett, I remember that didn't we have a list of staff recommendations for these? And didn't we share that here not too long ago? I remember
I don't know
seeing,
if we shared anything. I know we talked about it a little bit.
maybe that would help the board also with their list if you had what the staff recommends. Because I know I asked us to do one and I remember seeing it. And we can get that to the board here too, or this subcommittee if that's the route we take.
Okay, yeah, we'll, Chris and I'll look into that and we'll dig it up and get it to you, or get it to the board.
Perhaps I could suggest then, based off Paul's recommendation, that we meet, we create a special meeting within the next week or two. We can look through that list, give recommendations at the next board meeting then. Sorry, that was my phone. So would that work for everyone? I mean, I'm all about subcommittees, but there's only 4 of us, so.
I think Paul's a natural for that subcommittee of 1.
Thanks, Pat. No, I think there needs to be more.
Paul's now the leader.
Yeah, well, I'd be happy to organize it. I have no problem with that, and move it forward. It would be great. Yeah, I think everybody should get a copy of the information Chris pulled together, or Chris and Jeremy have pulled together, and Brett, if you could chase down that other information, that'd be really helpful. And
Yeah, I
just
can merge both the lists and send you guys kind of a full overview of everything.
okay.
For me, it would be interesting if the staff would also go through that list and mark their priority levels.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that we may not have to do 2 lists. We could just have staff prioritize off the one that Chris had created, just present it here.
Yeah, I'll just merge both of them so they'll be in one thing, and then it'll all be side by side so you can see what the staff recommends, and then you guys can go through and pick what you want and where you want it and whatever else.
That'd be great. Thanks, Carissa. Jeremy, does that work okay for your timeline then?
Yeah, that'd be great. If we can, at our next board meeting, come to some consensus, I think that would be good timing to get that in front of the council. So our next meeting is going to be right around the 4th of July, right?
July 1st.
What was that, Kim?
July 1st
First.
is the meeting.
Hey, Jeremy, if you have time also, can I include you in staff on prioritizing some of those projects also from the plan?
Yeah, do you want me to go through and put my priorities on there? Or
Well, I'd like to know what you're thinking also. Yeah, for sure. I know the ones I want, but your staff technically too, so.
Yeah, I'll go through and flag the ones that I think would be high priority, and you can throw that into the pool with the staff recommendations.
Great, thank you.
Cool, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome, I like that. We have marching orders now.
Who wants to be on that committee? All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Neil.
Of course. Brett, as superintendent, do you have anything else you'd like to bring up today? I mean, we blew through the agenda really fast, so now I'm just like stalling for time. Let's be honest. No, what do you have anything, Brett?
I would like to let everyone know that Memorial Day went very well. Very busy out here. I would estimate we had roughly 200 cars a day out here, so it's extremely busy. And nobody caused any damage, so that's always a plus.
Great news. Thank you. Cool. Does anyone have anything else?
Just one question. Does anybody at the city happen to know like when we're going to be meeting again in person?
I can give an update on that. So city council is working on a hybrid meeting model that will allow them to have both in-person and virtual meetings happening simultaneously. We've been instructed with all of our other boards to continue to meet virtually until they get that sorted out, and then I think the opportunity to meet in person will be there.
Okay, thank you.
So a timeline, probably a couple of months, I would guess, to get the bugs worked out of that.
Yeah, it would be nice to see people again in person.
That's what I was just gonna ask you. What's the board's opinion on it? Individually.
I'm over COVID. I want to start meeting back in person on stuff. It's just, yeah.
I agree.
That's me.
I mean, I know, like, just like everyone, I have a busy schedule, so there's a lot of convenience to the online meetings, but it's nice to see people as well and get direct face-to-face contact. And then, you know, we get together after the meeting and talk about Jeremy behind his back. Just kidding, Jeremy.
You can make that work on Zoom too.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's nice to meet in person. I think the virtual option is also nice to have. I doubt that that room that Brett's sitting in is going to be a great location.
No, I barely fit in there.
Hybrid meetings going forward. Might have to look at a new space. Very different.
If or when we do start meeting again and we look at maybe a similar hybrid thing where people need to join by Zoom, can we use your conference room? And since it sounds like it's already set up to be able to have that dual functionality.
Yeah, we can certainly use that conference room at Water. It's quite large.
Cool.
I'd offer up Streets too, Neil, if you guys want. It's not quite as fancy as Waters, but it is functional.
But we'll have to continue virtual still because we've got the public that has to be involved, so that has to be set up.
Yeah, I mean, I really do like the idea of a hybrid model, just because, boy, sometimes you're coming out of one meeting and trying to cross town and get to the board meeting and so on and so forth, and there's the flexibility is nice.
Yeah, I know we don't get a ton of public interest in the cemetery board meetings, but we've certainly found with council meetings that the remote option has really added another layer of ability for people to participate. And so we really think that's actually a good thing we learned out of COVID and want to figure out how to continue it. So figuring the logistics of doing a hybrid meeting are more complicated than I would have expected. They're getting it figured out. So I think we'll have that option pretty soon.
Well, if American Idol can do it, I mean, do it.
But we've been doing the hybrid for a while now. Does create a little complexity to it because somebody has to monitor the public comment opportunities for both, well, the virtual piece and then and yeah, we're the same. We'll have the majority of the board will be present in person. Some might be remote, and then the public is all remote. So it just helps to have a AV person, tech person sort of managing the technology side of it. For the board chair, it gets a little bit tricky.
Sounds good. Does anyone have any other comment?
Well, welcome aboard, Brett. It's great.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'll just add my congratulations, Brett. You've done a terrific job as the interim. Really glad to have you there as the permanent superintendent, and things have really run smoothly under your leadership. So thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, let's go ahead and adjourn today's meeting, and you can have 10 minutes back in your day.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Great, thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.